Welcome to another Q video chat. I'm Willie Palov at the Halifax Herald. Joining me are Jeremy Fraser of the Cape Breton Post. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And of course, Jason Malloy, Charlottetown Guardian. What's up, Jason?
Well, big exhale. I didn't get traded over the weekend, so life is good.
Yes, we are one day after the Quebec League trade deadline. Everything's done, at least in the Q sense of things. We never know what's coming at the draft in June. So let's get right into it. Jeremy, you weren't with us last week, so let's go up there first and give people an idea what happened and where the team is now after all wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, so after the first day of the trade period, I didn't know if there was going to be any trades left for Cape Breton to make since they made 3 on the first day. December 16th, they acquired Nathan LaRose and a third-round pick for Alex Drover. He was a first-round pick of the Screaming Eagles in last June, 10th overall, dealing him to St. John. The team also acquired Derek Gentile, a Sydney resident from the Charlottetown Islanders, for Noah Lowen, another first-round pick of the Screaming Eagles. And then they also dealt Ben Allison, a second-round pick last June, and a first-round pick to Gatineau for Sean Boudria. 2 guys there, Derek Gentile and Sean Boudria, who are likely going to make an impact this season, but should also make an impact next year as well for the team in a year where it looks like next year is the year for the Screaming Eagles to kind of go for it. But also just here at the deadline, too, on Sunday, they acquired Robbie Sandalis from Shawinigan, the captain of the Cataracts this season, kind of more of a depth defenseman for the team. And then they also traded Ian Smallwood to Bathurst for a 7th-round pick. So in total, 5 trades, a couple of guys coming in and a couple of first-round picks going out.
Yeah, I like the modern approach they took. They had a chance, I think, to add a little bit, like the new owner wanted, perhaps try to get to the 3rd round, but they still didn't give away all their draft picks. They, as you mentioned, did sacrifice 2 first-round picks from the past 2 years, although I understand Alex Drover was hoping that move would happen for him, so maybe that's an exception. But a little like what happened for you, too, I think, on the island, Jason. They did trade off, but then they go out and win 5 in a row and aren't looking like a team that's gutted.
Yeah, when you trade a P.O. Joseph and you get an Xavier Bernard that you can plug right into your lineup, and the same thing with a Keith Getson for Jordan Marr. You know, they're not the same player, obviously, but the drop off is not as deep as it would have been if you would have gone for straight picks. And Noah's obviously coming in from Cape Breton and giving them even more depth. I was talking with head coach Jim Holton there yesterday, and he thinks they might actually have a deeper blue line now than they had before the trade. Now they don't have a number one like a P.O. Joseph, but there's lots of good players on that back end. They are going to miss Gentile's scoring up front. They were trying to get a forward at the deadline, but couldn't swing it for the price that was being asked. But 3 good players coming in: a first, 3 thirds, a third, or sorry, 3 seconds, a third, and a fourth. Recovered a little bit of the picks they've traded in previous years.
Yeah, what I see, as most of you know now at Halifax, they did most of their trading early, even as far back as the draft and the preseason. They did make 2 pretty big trades with Trepanier and Getson, as you mentioned, to finish it off. But that was a couple weeks ago. And what I see when we're talking about Halifax and teams like Cape Breton, Charlottetown, and also Rimouski and Baie-Comeau in this conference is kind of a wide open playoff picture. There are going to be upsets, maybe even in the 1st round, with teams that aren't totally gutted. It's going to be competitive.
And don't forget, Darren Rumble just got relieved from his job in Moncton as head coach a few hours ago here. So we'll see what happens in Moncton here going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because of course.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Moncton was the hottest team in the league for 6-8 weeks, and they still have those players. They could easily turn it back on and give 6 teams deep in that conference. So the trading is a little different that way, I think, at least on this side of the league.
Yeah, I think one thing that people in Charlottetown, fans of the Islanders, don't realize, Noah Lowen is going to be one heck of a defenseman for that team. And, of course, he was liked here in Cape Breton, but the Islanders got a really good defenseman in him for years to come.
Yeah, he stepped right in.
Yeah,
and is playing really well with Lucas Cormier on that top pairing right now.
Yeah, if we can, we've got about a minute. We can stretch it. If we can talk a bit about Drummondville and Rouen compared to this conference, the West, those 2 teams I think are loaded up to a level above and beyond what we've seen on this side, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, Drummondville making some acquisitions there, loading up, and Noranda obviously getting Joel Tisdale and Noah Dobbs. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see those two teams potentially go at it in the Q final.
Yeah, remember the West, they all have to get to the Final Four, and then they could, it's a reseeding after that. So it's not necessarily whoever comes out of the West has to play the winner of the East. It's reseeded in the Final Four.
Yeah, that is something I like about that new format. Anyway, we'll cut it off there. We'll get Jason a glass of water, and we'll do it again in another week or so. Nice talking to you guys.
See you next week.